All right, this is a pretty big unit in AP World. This is what I call the Advancements in Religion and Philosophy, Unit 2, things that we're going to hear about again and again and again. Things in China, India, and ancient Mesopotamia. And one thing to remember, that all of these advancements in these different regions are going to have a couple commonalities. They begin in or near the river valley civilizations, which were the most advanced cultures at the time. Things will be added to, there will be advancements and breakthroughs in these religions, but it will all stay within the same framework of the original foundation. Easy example, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. These ideas are going to spread across the globe through warfare or trade or migration, you name it, they are going to happen. And each was created to solve some type of crisis. There was a problem, the old ways of doing things weren't working, so we got to try something new. So, we're going to start off in China. We know about the dynastic cycle. It's going to run its course. And at the end of the Zhao or the Chao dynasty, there is a period called the Warring States area. And after that, we get a new dynasty known as the Qin. I say take it on the Qin. And the Qin will practice legalism. And legalism is the idea that people are bad, so they must be quickly and harshly punished for doing things wrong and richly rewarded. What strengthens a state is rewarded, and what weakens a state is punished. Do it quickly and harshly. And the country needs to be unified. A strong country is unified. And so legalists will say, we can't look to the past. We can't look at the Shang dynasty and the Zhao dynasty. Conditions are different here in the present. So let's focus on us. The famous emperor of this is a guy named Shi Huangdi, who will unify China. He will burn a lot of works of literature and philosophy that didn't agree with him, and he was extremely oppressive. He will do some interesting things. He will build the terracotta warriors to protect his tomb and rule in the afterlife. He will unify and connect all parts of the Great Wall of China. And he will standardize the writing system. Everybody must use the same writing system, even if they could not verbally communicate. But to pay for this, taxes were very heavy. That, with his oppressive rule, helps people to quickly overthrow him after a reign of 30 years. Basically, he changed things too fast. One of the works of literature that survived would be that of Confucius, a Chinese philosopher who wanted to be a politician, an advisor. But he had a problem is he always told the truth. And he kept getting fired because a lot of the governors he was advising wanted yes men. They didn't like to be told no. So Confucius is fired. He becomes a teacher where he says, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not innovating, I'm just a transmitter of tradition. This is what worked. And he said, go back to the Shang and the Zhao kings. The guys at the top of the dynastic cycle who rolled up their sleeves, they went out and worked amongst the people. That's what we need to do. And throughout Chinese history, whenever they get into trouble, they go to what would Confucius do? WWCD. He said the tops of the dynastic cycle, all right, are the golden ages. That's what we need to aim for. And he comes up with a philosophy of the 5 relationships of filial piety. Ruler to subject, father to son, older brother to younger brother, husband to wife, and friend to friend. In all of these responsibilities, people have a superior job where they must teach and look after someone else, and except for the emperor, an inferior job where you are supposed to listen and learn. If we all do what we're supposed to do, we will have an unbroken chain from the emperor all the way down to the poorest peasant. And this will help us. And he comes up with the idea that nobility is not someone who's rich from birth, but it is behavior. All right? Do the right thing, not the popular thing. Gentlemen understand this. They understand their part in the cosmic order, and by being good role models, others will follow. Again, the dynastic cycle, the upper end, this is where the emperor was the role model. Repairs the bridges and canals, the defensive walls, irrigation, food for the people. But as things aged and the dynasty, his great-great-great-grandchildren were spoiled, they didn't do anything, the gods removed the mandate, their ability to rule, and the whole thing would start over again. But if we're all these guys, if we all lead by example and do the right thing, not the popular thing, China will be harmonious. Which brings us to Taoism. And this one is kind of difficult. Taoism is the way. You can't see it, you can't touch it, and you can't smell it. And the perfect emperor in Taoism understands that earth is cruel and that heaven and earth will treat people like straw dogs, a worthless animal that nobody cares if it lives or dies. So the perfect sage king should treat his people like that. Because if he lets them struggle and figure it out for themselves, they'll be okay. But if he always rushes in to help them, then they will expect his help. They will not be able to do anything on their own because they're always waiting for the emperor. So it's tough, it's cruel, but it's if you give a man to fish, he'll eat for a meal. You teach him to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. I could help you, but it's better if you struggle. That's Taoism in a nutshell. India and Hinduism. Hinduism will start in the old Vedic Brahminic age, where there was a lot of elaborate rituals that were very expensive, the sacrifice. It was hard on the poor people. And what Hinduism is also a social hierarchy. It kind of puts you in your place. It's a way to maintain power. And the idea comes along from the newest Veda that you can achieve Brahman, you can achieve union with the force, the spiritual force that connects all binding things through mental action alone. It's not the ritual, but it's the purpose of the ritual. And there are three planes of existence: earth, heaven, and Brahman. So on earth, you're going to have to experience the transmigration or the samsara, the cycle of death and rebirth. You're going to be born, live a life, die, and be born again, slowly working your way up. Maybe you can get to heaven. The goal is to get to the top spot, which is Brahman. So the idea is to focus only on yourself. It's your actions. And Hinduism is liberating yet burdensome. If your life is miserable, you got to understand you are there because of something that you did in your previous life. So it's liberating because you're going to die, but burdensome because you know you've got to live through it again. So the idea comes with karma, which is work. To get higher up the scale, maximize your good actions and minimize your bad ones. Dharma is the whole thing where it is you have to understand life is hard and you are there for a reason. You have to, again, just to understand that you have to accept the responsibility of your social class, your gender, and your caste. If you don't like where you are, it's because you're there for a reason. You have to change it. You can't take a shortcut. You've got to live that life and then move on. And a guy named Mahariva will come up with the idea, Jainism, that karma acts as a weight on your soul or your Atman. Bad actions weigh you down. Good actions let you float up. I call it Jacob Marley from A Christmas Carol. He comes in with all those chains and weights attached to him because he was bad. He cannot rise up. Contrasting that, the other thing about Hinduism, it is mono and polytheistic. Remember, India is so diverse, people needed a way to conceptualize the gods, so they create many, many, many different images of those gods and goddesses. Which brings us to Buddhism. And Buddhism will be thought up by an Indian named Siddhartha Gautama, who, about 30 years old, will see a sick man, a poor man, and a dying man. It shatters his ideas of what life is like. So he goes out and he meditates and he achieves enlightenment. His past lives are revealed to him. He knows what he did right and what he did wrong. So he becomes the Buddha. And the Buddha will pledge his last life to showing people how to escape the transmigration. To him, they wanted to achieve nirvana, which is the same thing as the Hindu Brahmin. But it's a shortcut. It says you got to understand life is hard, life is suffering because of human greed and desire. So if you follow his 8-step plan, all right, right thought, right action, right mindfulness, right livelihood, right speech, if you learn how to do those things, you can slowly eliminate desire. You'll still have to die and be reborn, but it can only take a couple lifetimes, 2, 3, or 4, and then you can make it to nirvana. It is a shortcut to nirvana. Why it is adaptable and spreads around the world, a lot of Hindus converted to Buddhism early on because it got them out of the caste system. Then you no longer had to have that social barrier to it. So Buddhism will eventually fade from India and move further eastward, but it starts there. All right, there is the Buddha underneath the pipal tree. There is his 8-fold path and the 4 noble truths. Life is suffering. The source of suffering is desire. If you get rid of desire, you will end your suffering. The way to do that is to follow the 8-fold path. Next, we get to Judaism, which is the first look at one all-powerful, all-knowing God. One guy that does everything. And he will form a covenant with the ancestor of Judaism, a man named Abraham. And a covenant is an old-school contract where there are dual responsibilities. I will do this for you, but you must do this for me. And the Old Testament is the historical narrative of the Israelite people, what they were going through. We can match that up with writings from the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and the Hittites, so we know a lot of this stuff historically was going on. And when people forget the covenant, God will send a messenger, an inspired messenger, a prophet. Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat will go to be an advisor of the Pharaoh in Egypt. He will invite the Hebrews in where they will be enslaved. They will be led out by Moses, who receives God's 10 commandments in the Torah, God's rule book. This is all you need to do. I'm going to spell it out for you. It's all you have to do. And there are 2 centerpieces of Judaic monotheism. Number 1 is that God has a divine plan. He knows what you're going to do before you do it. And when you screw up, when you mess up, He is going to have to punish you. He's not punishing you to be mean. He's trying to correct your behavior. It is that this is wrong, so I have to punish you to bring you back. But God, centerpiece number 2, is perfect justice, harmony, and goodness. He will always take you back, but you just have to say you are sorry. So the Hebrews will be a unique people. They are defined not by a dynastic leader, not by a large empire, not by some elaborate language, but by a shared faith and their practice of it. It becomes the foundational monotheistic religion as God says, I will bring all people unto me. So Christianity will evolve from it, and Islam after that. 10 Commandments, the prophet Moses, and the tabernacle which housed the 10 Commandments, built by another prophet, wise King Solomon. Last but not least is Greek thought, where Thales was the first philosopher, where he says lover of wisdom, when he sees a stream change its course due to sediment. And he says, you know what? Poseidon didn't do that. A river nymph didn't do that. The world is rational and knowable if you study. And that brings us to the big 3 philosophers. You have Socrates, who is a city father of Athens, who helped write its laws, a soldier in the Persian Wars. He comes up with the idea, he becomes a teacher, very similar to Confucius. Question your leadership. I believe in the city-state and its laws, but people have to explain why they are doing X, Y, and Z. He angers the politicians of his day, and he is put to death. This leads his best student, Plato, to abandon Athens, and he will go on a 10-year journey to find the best type of government possible. All right, there's Socrates drinking his poison right there. So Plato wanders, and he believes he writes some, 26 essays like Allegory in a Cave and Plato's Republic, and he finds what he thinks is the perfect government in the mythological place of Atlantis, where there are philosopher kings, number one. These are smart people who would like to study and think and create. They understand they are obligated to be leaders. Second class is warriors. Third class is farmers. And Plato says you should submit yourself to the needs of your state. It's not what you want, but it's what the government needs you to do. So it's kind of like a Greek caste system. Just meet the quota. No initiative, no achievement. Do what you're supposed to do, not what you want to do. And anything that stands in the way of your city-state, destroy it and get rid of it. That was what Plato felt. His best student, a guy named Aristotle, says that's crazy. He said a person's true nature is revealed by simply studying them. And the government's job should be to help their people. If someone wants to climb higher up on the social ladder through work and initiative, then the government's responsibility is to help them achieve. All right? It's like your dad, he takes your training wheels off, he's going to push you, he's going to help you, but sooner or later he's going to give you that shove and you've got to do it on your own. I'm going to help you, but I'm not going to do it for you. He said that will create harmony and people will strive. It will create a harmonious, just society. He also says separate church and state. They should not be intertwined, and aim for moderation in all things. Moderate wealth is great. Moderate work is great. Moderate fun is great. Don't get caught up in excess. And he told political leaders to aim for the middle class. The middle class can reach down to the lower and up to the upper and bind them together. Hardworking people, they have skills. The person who controls the middle class will always win. And the final thing, originally in state, aim for the middle class, moderation in all things. Aristotle said, also understand you work for the majority of the people. That's who you aim for. The minority, sorry, I can't help you. We've got to go with the will of the majority, and that will create the perfect political climate. And as a very fast look around the world at advancements in religion and philosophy, please listen to this as you write your essay. And that is a wrap, sir.